Welcome back to 8 Cubes, the show where two of Marvel Snap's best players talk about the 8 most important topics in Marvel Snap today. And we're going to start things out with the newest card coming out, that is Cull Obsidian, a 4/10 that can only go in a location where you have a 1-drop. However, this restriction is not as bad as it sounds. This restriction actually will let you play a 1-drop and Cull Obsidian on the same turn in the same lane. So there is a lot going for this card. Obviously, one of the things that stands out to most people is you can play a 3/5 Black Swan into a free 1-drop and a Cull Obsidian, which is a pretty powerful thing to do. But I think what stands out to me the most is this is a 4/10. It goes in Thanos. It discounts your Scar. And being able to do things like that while also lockjawing has been historically pretty key to how Thanos wants to win games. You play the lockjaw and then a big guy and a stone in the lockjaw and then another big guy and a stone in a lockjaw. That tends to be how you want these games to play out. And I think that that is a fairly valid use case for Cull Obsidian. I guess my question is, do you see him doing anything other than being a Thanos card?
Yeah, so the funny thing is initially I thought he was not gonna be a Thanos card, right? But I think one thing that changed really big for me was like the interaction where you could play a stone and the cow on the same turn. It's relevant. Like, I mean, I'm not saying that like before that it was a bad card, but like after seeing this new interaction I realized it's like super relevant. Plus we talked a bit about in the previous video about like just the curve, right? The whole like time stone on 2 into cow on 3 into skull on 4, something big on 5, something big on 6. You don't have enough Shang-Chi's.
Yep.
You don't have enough Shang-Chi's, which is super, super important. I think you might be able to run this in the Zabu High Evo deck because they run a bit of 1-drops, right? Like maybe you can go a bit harder on the 1-drops. Like now they have Sunspot and Misty. Maybe if you want to play this package, you can drop a Nebula back in there for 3 1-cost cards. I mean, it's a 4/10, it's gonna be a 3/10. If it's like the perfect curve, right? 1-drop, Zabu, 3/10, kind of disgusting. I mean, you open it up yourself to Shang, but still, it's 3/10. So I do see it having some potential there. I haven't thought about it in like just traditional Zabu Miss Marvel stuff. Those don't really run 1-drops. In fact, some of those even run Killmonger, so probably not there. But yeah, so the two places that I currently see it in is in like high evo Zabu kind of stuff, and also obviously Thanos Lockjaw.
One of the places that I want to try it is like some sort of Thanos zoo where we do like Khazar and Blue Marvel and also have Cull Obsidian in there. I don't know if he fits super well in that though, because that deck tends to be like a Valkyrie deck. However, having a card that's just like, hey, this is like really big, and then my other lane is gonna be the Valkyrie lane, like it's not nothing, right? Obviously, I want to try it in like Zabuzu stuff, but that seems pretty poorly positioned right now because of the preponderance of Sarah decks that are running around. Where it's like, if I'm going to be a deck that relies on these 1-drops, which a Cull Obsidian deck needs to be, I do not want to get completely owned by Killmonger, which sort of pushes me further and further away from anything other than Thanos Lockjaw, the most Killmonger immune 1-drop deck, because you're throwing him into Lockjaw. And you end up in this situation where it's like, I really would like to play Zabu Zoo, right? I would like to do something where it's like, I play Zabu, I play Black Swan on 5, I play every 1-drop in my entire hand, Cull Obsidian and a Shang-Chi. Like, that sounds like something that I would like to do, but I am very scared of, like, it's a very real possibility that decks are playing, Ghost Killmonger right now. It's like, I instantly lose. If you're doing something like that and I'm trying to do this Cull Obsidian thing, I am the most dead of all time. And so I think that right now I'm less excited for the Zeus stuff. And this is coming from me. I would normally be extremely excited for the Zeus stuff just because it's so easy for a deck like Sarah to, if that deck ever becomes popular, just be like, oh, I'm a Ghost Killmonger deck now. You die instantly. And so I think there's kind of a hard cap on it. Whereas with Thanos, that's already a good deck. I think it could make sense in there. I think it could be one of those cards that there are like basically 2 empty slots in every Thanos deck. And I think Cull Obsidian could easily go in one of those slots.
Yeah, I just want to add one more thing, which is like, as you were talking, I was thinking about some stuff, and then I realized that firstly, the Killmonger threat is very like super relevant, but it becomes less relevant in Thanos also because you can like I said, you can do that whole like play a stone and Cull on the same turn,
Yeah.
right? So it becomes a little bit less relevant. Also, that god curve of like time stone on 2 into Cull on turn 4. It kind of Cull on turn 3. Sorry, it kind of does dodge the Monger because the Monger comes down on 3. So if you go time stone on 2, you Cull on. It's like they play a Monger, blow up the time stone. Sure, here's my 4/10 that leads into a Scar, that leads into a Dino, that leads into the Blob. It's like you really have not enough Shanks. I'm actually quite excited for that.
Yeah. Just wait until they start playing, like, Grandmaster Absorbing Man. It's time to get 3 Shanged. We're gonna play 3 Shang-Chis, baby.
The disgusting I don't think this is gonna be the way.
It's not gonna be good, like, but it's gonna be so painful to lose to.
Definitely. Once in a while, it's gonna lose you 8, right? But yeah, it is what it is.
Let's talk about what I would describe as one of Marvel Snap's most balanced metas and how we got here. My basic theory of this metagame is it is predicated on the existence of Serra Tech as a limiting force on the meta. When you look at Serra Tech, it has answers to a lot of decks, most decks even. But one deck it has no answers to is Hela. When you look at nearly every other kind of combo deck in the game, you have a good card in Serra Tech against those matchups. You have Mobius and Mobius against Loki. You have it against Death in Destroy decks. You have it against She-Not decks. You have Shang-Chi against everything that does stats. You have Enchantress against decks like Living Tribunal, decks like Darkhawk. You have, of course, Killmonger against decks based on 1-drops. You have Shadow King, which is very good against Destroy. People have been playing Armor, also very good against Destroy. I believe you can see at this point what I'm getting at here. There's one deck that Serra has absolutely no tech for in a realistic sense, and that's Hela. People are going to talk about, okay, what if I played a Cosmo? And yeah, you could try to like guess the 1 in 3 on a Cosmo, or maybe a 1 in 2 if you get, lucky with some locations that prevent them from playing a Hela there. You could go for it, sure. You could try playing an Eliath and Serra. I've seen people do that. But mostly you have no answers to, I discarded 3 cards off my Hela, so you die now. And that is the reason. You choose
one location, yeah.
Yep. Like, that is the reason that Hela has been the sort of prominent, combo deck in the metagame, despite being a little bit smaller than decks like Living Tribunal. It's much harder to interact with it. And then you end up in this situation where it's like, okay, the 2 limiting factors on the metagame are Serra and Hela, which leads us back to Loki, because Loki does a lot of the same things as Serra, but it is significantly actually better in the matchup against Hela. It's not, amazing, but when you get a 4-cost Magneto, that's actually just really good. When you get like a 4-cost big guy, when you get some of their discarders in Hela, you actually have plans in that matchup in a way that Serra simply does not, which has brought us back to Loki's prominence in the meta, in my personal opinion. In addition, Loki is also able to play for big stats with Devil Dinosaur in a way that Serra simply cannot. Loki can be like, all right, I'm going to actually be winning all 3 of these lanes. I can stay in and see if I get lucky. Serra basically does not have enough points to do that. And I think that is the other reason why Loki is back. But all of this is in the context of there are probably like 7 or 8 decks that have a 50+% win rate, and you could play basically any of them. And while that is the dynamic at the top level meta, it is actually, I would say, a relatively healthy metagame. There is cycles happening. A deck becomes dominant. Another deck rises up to beat it. Another deck rises up to have a better matchup against that. That's a good thing, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. Actually, I just want to add one point regarding the whole Cosmo thing for the Hela deck. Like, if you've played against or played Hela recently, like, I haven't played a lot of Hela, but I played against a lot of Hela recently. Like, honestly, they don't have as little tempo as you think. Like, the whole Cosmo idea is like you need to snipe the Hela, right? Or if you play it too early, they'll just not play the Hela in that location, obviously. But Hela decks don't actually do too much of nothing. It's not that invisible woman into Hela, into like Modok stuff. They have blades, 1/3s, they have 3/5s, Lady Sifs. Sometimes Lockjaw Hyros just straight up one big dude, and then there goes all initiative out the window. Like the Hela deck is consistent now because of some amount of tempo that's in the deck, which is a bit of a scary thing. But yeah, on that note, I think in the next topic we'll talk a bit about why Loki is back.
So Loki's back.
Okay, so Loki's back, yes. Okay, so Loki is back for a few reasons. Okay, firstly, let's look at the Hela deck. What's the Hela deck, right? It's a bunch of cheap 1 cost, 3 cost discard stuff, a Lockjaw, a lot of big cards, and the Hela. So what does that remind you of? That reminds you of Thanos Lockjaw, right? It's effectively the same stuff that you steal, more or less, right? So, okay, obviously you don't really want to steal blades and stuff, but blades are 0/3s if you steal them with Loki, so they can be played on the final turn. And there is those off chances you can go like blade into a small Hela, right? Just to revive something small. It's a 5 cost Hela, and not to mention this is still a meta of 5 cost Magneto being insanely messed up and OP. So I mean Magneto's just messed up and OP right now. So I do believe that Loki comes back right now because the Hela matchup is just absurdly better than like Sarah versus, like, we talk about Sarah being the better Miss Marvel deck in general, right?
Which
I do still agree. I do still agree. But like for this particular Hela matchup, like it's effectively playing Loki to steal big 6 cost cards that cost 5, which is the same thing you did with Thanos Lockjaw, and it made Loki favored a bit there. So it's probably gonna do the same thing here as well.
I think the major issue is not necessarily that Loki has a great matchup into this deck, but Sarah's matchup into it is so bad. Like, Sarah's matchup into Hela, if they discard 2 or 3 dudes, you just die. You just die. You cannot win the game. Because Sarah is so all in on the tech and has such little actual stats. Sarah is a deck built to be as minimalistic in terms of card slots used on stats as possible. There's really only like 3 or 4 in any given Sarah deck that are just like good stat value. Like Gladiator, you get Gladiator, Maximus, Miss Marvel, maybe a Lizard. Those are your good stats. Everything else sucks. And that just can't beat a Hela. And that is the crux of the issue with Hela, where it's just like, against Sarah, you basically cannot lose. Against Loki, it's an actual game. And so that has brought Loki back to prominence, despite the fact that if you matched up Loki against Sarah and the Loki deck was not running like specifically Rogue, I would imagine the Sarah deck is very favored, because the Sarah deck, because it's so stripped down, can fit stuff like Mobius in there, and the Loki deck has a lot more trouble doing that. I added this topic, and I'm not sure Lamby noticed, but I want to talk about She-Not, because I think that, She-Not is legitimately good right now. This is a good deck that, despite the fact that, yes, everything is face up, I actually think we're at a pretty low point in terms of location interaction in Marvel Snap. And what I mean by that is a lot of these Sarah decks have cut Legion, right? A lot of the Thanos players are no longer playing Thanos. There's no reality stones running around. And even if there were, a lot of the time they're incentivized to play them on 1 if they don't have any other things that they're actually trying to do in there. We are not seeing a bunch of Scarlet Witches, and Loki, while he is on the uptick. Yeah, Snowguard's bad for you, but it's not like we're at the level of Loki play that we were at previously. And I think She-Not was like a fine tier 2+ deck in all those metas that were much worse for it. But now we're in metas that are actually good for it, and it's a Leech deck that is good if it gets to play Leech into, say, Sarah or Hela. And that, I think, positions it pretty well. It's a Leech deck that goes really, really tall. So it's not like it's one of those decks that's going to like randomly lose the game where they leash the Hela or they leash the Sarah hand. They're still going to win those games. And I think that is quite interesting as far as the deck is positioned.
Okay, so yeah, I did notice this topic was in there. I noticed, but in my head it was like, why? So okay, so here's my I mean, we don't always have to agree. This one's my agree to disagree moment, because when I was hearing your pitch, it was a kind of not too bad of a pitch. But like, and then while I was listening to your pitch, in my mind I was imagining my games versus She-Not, and I'm like, nope, this is still food. So like, okay, so for reals though, like I guess it's fine that we maybe don't like fully agree on this one. I do agree one thing though, like the Hela matchup is good for this one, like legit, because they have no locational disruption, right? Like they play Hela on like we talk about Hela now as like not big ball Hela, just like revive 2 to 3 things Hela, right? Going like 22 Power Hawk and She-Hulk does potentially beat like Hela revive 2 or 3 things. That I 100% agree. And you always get 7 turns with Hela, right? Plus you get to leech them as well.
Yep.
So that's very real. Just don't get clocked by Magneto by accident with your magics and Cyclops and stuff. But yeah, so that matchup, very real. 100% agree. Why I don't agree is that like I feel like versus other normal decks that have like, okay, not normal decks that have like you said, Snowguard, Allegiant, or Reality Stone.
Right, but like there aren't as many of those. Like people are playing people playing Destroy, absolutely no reactions. Like
yeah,
no ability to do anything. It's just who scales higher, and decent amount of the time that is the Destroy deck. You just have to deal with that, but you have Leech to try to cover you there, right? Like people are playing Lockdown, people are playing Sarah, and they're cutting Legion. Like I know most high elo people right now are not playing Legion in their Sarah decks right now. Like people are playing Quake stuff instead of it. Like I just like it's an all-time low. Yes, Loki, Thanos, that's bad. I get it. But that's probably 15% of the metagame. It used to be like 30.
So.
It used to be like 30% of the metagame.
Okay, yeah, but I just feel like the matchup is just like you mentioned, like we both agree, it's a very straightforward matchup, and like I don't see it. I mean I see it for the Hela matchup, but like outside of the Hela matchup, I don't see it because like it's just still vulnerable to the same things. Whether like maybe you see it a bit less, but yeah, it's still vulnerable to the same things, and the deck is like legitimately very face up.
It is the most face up deck in the entire game. However, by the same token, that means like if you're out there and you're like, damn, I suck at Marvel Snap, but I still want to hit Infinite, it's the deck for you. Because this
deck always works to hit Infinite. Yeah. Like it always works. It's even better when it comes to the bot stuff as well, because you play from behind. It's amazing versus bots.
Let's talk about the Beast nerf, because I think last time we talked about it, we weren't sure how bad it was, and I think I am confident to be able to say at this point, it was quite bad. This was really bad. This was a big nerf. I thought that Annihilus Bounce was really up there in terms of decks. And right now, I mean, part of it is that it's not overwhelmingly well positioned. It's like a bit awkward into Hela. But I think the major issue that it has is that I have noticed over the last, let's say, since it first came out, I would say, Annihilus Bounce has lost a lot of the flexibility that allowed it to be a good deck in the first place. It keeps losing options on turns 4, 5, and 6 and becomes more, you talked about it with Shinnot, face up. There used to be so many different things you could do. Okay, I'm going to Annihilus turn 6 so as to, not let them know what's going on. But now everyone is so wise to that, right? You're not getting that void over there on turn 6. It just is not happening. They are filling that lane up. That is how it works. And you either have to leverage the threat of that or accept that they're just not going to play there and they're going to try to win the other 2 lanes, in which case you need to have been setting up for that even before you played the Sentry. In addition, everyone's playing Shang-Chi. Sentry is usually just absolutely getting eaten. But I think more than anything else, what the Beast thing has done is your turn 5s and 6s now there's just so much competition for what you need to do, because it's like, okay, I want to have all these 0-cost cards on turn 6, right? So that means I need a Beast on 5. Okay, if I Beast on 5, I can't Annihilus on 5. Now I'm Annihilusing on 6. Like, everything is just, it's dictated to you by the deck rather than the alternative. The deck used to be so fluid and you had so many options, and it's just taken so many nerfs, right? Like the Werewolf nerf, the Beast nerf, the Annihilus nerf, that now it has to be a Zabu deck, and it's just like, there's just so much going wrong for a deck that was the epitome of flexibility and power. It is now a lot more on rails, and I will say that it feels bad to play with the new Beast. I think it's still a good deck, but it's far from a great one.
Yeah, it's interesting though. Like, I always found the bounce shell to be the most flexible shell in the game, right? Because like 1-cost cards are cheap, and then Beast turns them into 0. But like the big downside of not being able to hold these zeros for that much longer than 1 turn means you're either using Beast as just like what we did with Grandmaster Bounce for a period. Like we just use it to bounce one thing, so you get the reactivation once, or you actually play the Beast very late on turn 5. Like of course, yes, it's cheaper right now, but the flexibility loss of being able to hold is a really big deal. For what it's worth, though, I personally think that the Annihilus bounce deck, like with Beast, it's very funny. I remember a while back you were like, Annihilus bounce deck is the best. Then like I didn't see it. Now it's kind of interesting. Now I actually think that I still feel very confident playing the deck into the field right now, because like I kind of adapted to new Beast quite quickly. But not saying that like it's it's not good enough, but like I can tell that like it's worse, but I adapted. But I think maybe a lot of people, they haven't really tried adapting to it enough yet, and then like we're just going towards this like Hela, Sarah, Loki, whatever meta, and maybe just Beast won't have its time to shine anytime soon. But I honestly think that like being able to pilot new beasts right now is still something that's really important, because I don't think it's unplayable. I just think that you just need to have a different mindset with the card now.
I didn't, to be clear, I didn't say it was unplayable. It's still on my tier list. I think it's good.
Mm-hmm.
But this is a deck that I thought was the best deck in the game. And
Yeah.
it's a real downgrade. And like when you go through the list of when I first put Annihilus Bounce together, like the day Annihilus came out, right? When I was like, oh, the way this guy works is you put him in the bounce shell, you play Hood and Sentry with him. That's like everyone else is still like playing like, debris crap. Like I have been super in on that list since that happened. Since then, we have lost America Chavez, Werewolf by Night, Angela. We have lost. Wait, no, that was post Angela nerf. We're good. Okay, we didn't lose Angela there. We've lost Beast. So that's like 4, and we've lost a point of power on Annihilus and the ability to send over zeros, which did matter in that deck a decent amount of the time. So we've lost 4 cards out of that deck. And yet, we're still running 3 of them because there's no better options. So instead of looking at it like, oh, we lost 4 cards, but the deck adapted, the deck didn't adapt. It just got worse. It literally, all it did was get worse. That is the only thing that happened over the course of those nerfs, was this specific deck got worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. And I just miss it. I wanted to talk about Black Swan because I have been playing her in Thanos, and I've been like shockingly surprised at how good she's been. The way I look at most Thanos decks is there's like 2 flex spots right now. Now that wave game plans are like so mediocre into stuff like Sarah, I feel like she's a little bit of a flex slot. There's a Psylocke spot, there's a Leash spot, a Blue Marvel spot. All of those cards tend to go in those last 2 spots. I've been messing around with Black Swan in one of those spots, and I gotta say, I've been weirdly impressed with the way she makes your bad draws into kind of okay draws. I'm not sure that's entirely relevant in a game like Marvel Snap, a gambling game where you're snapping and retreating, but like there are these games where it's like, all right, well, my hand kind of sucks, but I will be able to do something late if I like, she makes these late playable. Like sometimes you'll have like a Mind Stone in hand on turn 5, and you're like, oh, that's like super unplayable. She makes it like not super unplayable, right? You can go like a 4 plus that Mind. You go like her plus the Mind Stone, play the other stones that you actually draw. It's not the greatest thing in the world. What she's really good at, though, is synergizing with Lockjaw. Lockjaw is a card that requires you to pay that 1 energy and a stone tax into it. And so when you are able to do something like Black Swan on 4, Devil Dinosaur plus a stone into Lockjaw on 5, that's really legit. Like, that kind of play is actually really legit. And so I guess I was just generally surprised because, like, I was like, okay, I don't really think this card is very good, but in the Thanos shell, it's like probably not. It's one of the better options. I think it's a real contender for that slot. I'm not saying it's going to take that slot away from Wave or Leech or whatever, but it was closer to being real than I ever thought it would be. Let me put it that way.
Yeah, I can see because it reactivates that, what's that called? That whole pre-nerf Quinjet interaction, right?
Yeah.
From the past, because it lets you play 0 plus big, 0 plus big. Now usually what we do is we play like a 5+1 on turn 5 if we play Time Stone on 4, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But this one lets you do it for 0. I guess I don't think it's like an upgrade whatsoever. I just think like it's an option, like you said. Like if honestly if Black Swan pops out of Lockjaw herself, I think that might be pretty cool. Because like I mean, it's free. It's 3/5. Firstly, it's 3/5. 3/5. Like the whole reason why I feel like this is even a relevant like thing is because it's 3/5, right? Like you wouldn't mind actually physically playing it or seeing it pop out of Lockjaw. Because like if it's anything smaller, it's like a low roll from a Lockjaw. But then now that it's a 3/5, it turns your next turn's 1 cost stone into a 0 cost stone, which could become something big, into the lockjaw, and then you play your own natural big thing. So yeah, I can see it there, but I'm just a bit confused. Like, I'm not sure if I really want to play this card on like turn 3 or 4 or 5.
Yeah.
Like, I don't mind seeing it pop out off lockjaw to benefit my like stones in hand, but I don't know if I will feel good about playing it on curve itself.
I think of it as like sort of alternate wave, where like wave on 4 sort of enables the same big guy plus stone on 5 play, where it's like, that's really where I like playing wave. I hate playing wave on 3 in Thanos decks. I love playing wave on 4 after I've played a lockjaw. Like, that's what I want to be doing in the deck. And I like wave on, or really wave on 4 pretty much anytime, just to get that extra stuff out of your hand. Like, I feel like is actually pretty important. Whereas wave on 3, I have not had good experiences with, and I think I just don't like it very much. I am pretty compelled by specifically X+1 playlines in Thanos, and allowing more of them is what Black Swan does. I think she's been better than I expected, because I was like, I looked at this card and I was like, there's no way this makes sense in Thanos. That's ridiculous. We have too much better things to be doing. But I really haven't hated her, and I am surprised by that. Let's talk about some stuff I do hate. That's Hela. Like, I hate this deck. It sucks. Okay, let's do it. I'm going to do the rant. Okay, so Hela is a deck that rewards exactly one part of Marvel Snap, and that is the gambling part. And I understand there are people out there who are, for them, the gambling is exciting, but I think first and foremost, Marvel Snap is a card game, where card game skills are rewarded. I would argue that Hela is more equivalent to something along the lines of, I don't know, Yogg-Saron. Like, it's similar to that in a way that's like, it doesn't feel like any of this is in my control. And while, yes, you are doing things on the margins to influence how this Hela is going to play out, choosing what lanes you fill up, choosing how you want to handle your preparation for the Hela, most of what's happening in the Hela decks is they have a really good shot at playing Hela and having discarded 3 cards. And if they do that and they go in the right spots, they win. And if they go in the wrong spots, they lose. And it turns the whole game into something less akin to a card game and more akin to, I would say, perhaps roulette. Or I think maybe it's more similar to blackjack, where you have to like count cards and be like, all right, what are my actual odds here? How do I get to stay in? Can I tell the dealer to hit me here? Right? Like, that's how it feels like playing a Hela against a Hela right now. And it's just like, I personally have always found experiences that strip the game down to sort of guessing where stuff goes, and that Galactus is an example, Eliath is an example, have always been distasteful to me as a player of card games. I think that stuff sucks. That said, I will offer this defense of Hela. It's not Hela's fault. It's Serra's fault. Because every other combo deck dies to Serra. If every other combo deck... If there wasn't a deck that was literally just 7 tech cards and then some power, we wouldn't be playing Hela. That's my counter argument, right? It's like, yes, Hela sucks. I get it. But I think they have a bigger problem, and it's that there's a deck that is just like 7 tech cards that is totally fine to play, and only 3 cards in it are actually trying to win lanes. It's just like they're all tech. So I think in defense of Hela, I will say, if they only fix Hela, there will still be a problem, and that will be Serra.
Yeah, the first thing I want to talk about is that so-called 7 tech cards deck, aka Serra, Zabu, Miss Marvel. The crazy thing is that, like, yes, we only have like actual 3 to like 3 win laners, right? Like Maximus, Miss Marvel, and Gladiator. But like the 7 tech cards are not like blank stuff. Like, the only one that's like really a bit like sad to play on curve, obviously, is Shadow King, which you never do. But Enchantress with Zabu is like a 3/5. And then, like, Shang-Chi is just a game swinger. So like and the thing is, any of these things activates your 4/14, aka Miss Marvel. So like that's why Sarah is like the top dog right now, because like your tech cards activate power, which is mad. So of course Hela being back right now is really just because like they are more power and unaffected by the 7 tech cards. So that's basically it. And which is why we had this whole topic about why Loki might be back, blah blah blah, earlier on. But yeah, so what I want to say about you mentioned the thing about like Hela is mainly about like on turn 6. Okay, obviously there's like some tempo leading up to that, which is like relevant. But like on turn 6 it's really about like that blackjack calculator, right? Or like casino calculator, whereby you have to like just like think of your odds. I mean, That is a bit sad, I agree. But like I think it's something that I am personally, like you said, this is a bit more personal. So like I'm something I'm very personally used to. So I mentioned in the previous video that like I can handle this for like maybe a week or so more. But like if this is like a month of Hela, I will probably get sick of it. I haven't felt it yet, so I can't say for sure. But like maybe if this is a month of meta, then yeah, I'll probably feel sick of it.
It's just one of those things where it's like I like a lot of the cards that tend to be the most distasteful to me are the ones that turn it into a different
50
game.
50s, yeah.
Yeah, like the more, because card games are built on a foundation of obscuring the ways that RNG affects the outcomes, right? Making you feel in control despite the fact that for some amount of the time the game is on rails as long as you make the very obvious plays, right? And I think that decks and cards that strip that artifice away are particularly egregious to me from a design perspective. Decks and cards that make you feel like there was nothing you could do. And Hela is absolutely one of those. Eliath was one of those. Galactus was one of those. Like, these are cards that need to be looked at with a harsher eye than cards that people can play and feel like they are doing something and that losses are in their control or out of their control. Like, for example, my most recent Hela experience was against Husky Puppies. I made a call that I was like, yeah, I mean, I don't know, I'll stay here. We'll see what happens. I very skillfully won when he got unlucky. And it's like, did I do anything there? Was I smart for making that call? I don't really think so. Like it didn't feel like a game of Marvel Snap. It felt like a game of Marvel Hela. And I think that's the issue that I have with the deck as a whole. However, again, in defense of Hela, it's actually all Sarah's fault. I want to yell about something. I don't know how many people are aware of this. I assume most people are. But when you are climbing to infinite, some of the players that you play against are bots. These are bots that were put into the game by the developers. They are quite bad at Marvel Snap, and a lot of fast climbing to infinite is identifying them quickly. There are several characteristics that you could use to identify them. Most people who have been playing as long as me can pretty much identify them on sight. And of course, there are, some false positives in there, people pretending to be bots, but usually you can get a pretty reasonable sense just on how they're playing the game and what their timings are, whether or not this is a real person or a bot. However, what this does is massively artificially increase the cube rate and win rate of decks that are being tracked on untapped.gg from before Infinite. I would go so far as to say that pre-infinite data is absolutely 100% useless. It tells me absolutely nothing. And you can see this by when you look at pre-infinite data and post-infinite data, you can see cube rates drop by like a factor of 3. You will have decks with 200 plus game sample sizes and pre-infinite data that are having a 1 cube rate, a cube rate over 1. You go see, look at that same deck, post-infinite data, its cube rate will be like 0.2. Like, this is what a bot will do to you, because the bots are so very easy to take for 4 or 8 cubes when you play against them. They absolutely ruin the usability of data. And I bring this up specifically because it happens a ton in the first week of any new season. Now, with not just a season pass card, but also a new card coming out, I want to warn you to be careful of this, because you will see an infinite amount of Marvel Snap creators, not really an infinite amount, let's be real here, but like a bunch of Marvel Snap creators would be like, look at my stats on my climb to infinite. And I think you should know that those stats don't mean anything. They mean nothing. That is a person who is A, better than the people they're playing, farming up to infinite very early, and B, also farming bots. Those numbers mean nothing to the quality of a deck. Do not trust them. Do not use them. Do not get clickbaited. And to any Marvel Snap creators watching this, I know you know it's true. Please stop posting pre-infinite numbers. It just muddies the waters. It does not give anyone an actual understanding of this. I actually did want to give a huge shout out to Alex Kocha, who posted his infinite numbers posted the 90 to 100 numbers. He was like, these are the pre-infinite numbers. And then he was like, yeah, so I think a big reason why this happens is this deck is really good at farming bots. If you're going to do that, at least have the decency to acknowledge the reality. Huge shout out to Alex for doing that. He was like, yo, this deck is crushing in 90-100. And also, I think it's because it is very good at farming bots because there's a lot of hidden power. And that's what, like, if you're going to do that, that's what you have to do, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, for the longest time, I mean, I've known this for a long time already because, like, to me, it's like super irrelevant. Like pre-infinite data is just, it's just not real, lah. Let's be real. Let's be real that it's not real.
Yeah.
Let's be real that it's not real. Yeah. So like my latest personal post as well, I hit infinite with a Corvus Glaive. No, sorry, not Corvus Glaive. I love that card so much. I keep talking about Corvus Glaive. It's not Corvus Glaive with a super. I don't even see. This is not even Cull Obsidian. It's Corvus Glaive, and I said like super giant. I mean, you see what I'm trying to say? Okay, I hit
no,
infinite.
I have no idea what you're trying. No, I get what you're trying to say.
No,
it's not. You're not even
super giant.
Yeah, you're not even getting Cull Obsidian and Corvus Glaive confused. You're getting the other one. Yes.
I just love Corvus Glaive. Okay, but anyway, I hit infinite with a super giant deck with like 60% win rate, and then like I straight up said that like, oh, this is not a good deck. I
this
put
deck
it in caps.
Sucks. Yeah, you like all caps. This is not a good deck. Don't play it.
It's not a good deck. Yeah, it's just one of those things like KM said, right? Like if you're a decent player, you know how to like work the bots a little bit. You will just hit infinite with whatever, you know. So yeah, the stats don't really matter there. I don't really have much to add. I just feel like okay, yes, content creators like have like nice titles, interesting titles, or like nice things for you to look at. Like, I should click. But like, there's a fine line between like enticing people and straight up falsehood, and I feel like the pre-infinite numbers are they're just living embodiments of falsehood. Because like I played card games for so long, right? Like and also Marvel Snap for so long. Cube rates don't hit 1.
Yes, like, that's so not a thing. If you're playing like 120 games and your cube rate is like 1.2, I just like I don't know what to tell you. You're either smurfing or playing bots. Like I don't. I would be.
Or you could really be that one like god tier Einstein person, but you're like one. Like usually it's not the case. Yeah.
Like I think it is possible. Like I've had my best run with Loki. I was like 65%
right, yeah.
for a season, right? But that was over the course. But I still didn't have a 1 cube rate.
Same.
Like, I still
my Loki win rates was super high. It was like 60-ish.
Yeah.
For a card game, that's insane, by the way. Yes. And like for like a couple of months, and like I don't think I hit 1, or maybe I did.
I don't think I ever came close. Like
I have no idea, but like no, it's not easy.
It's not a thing. Like it's very difficult to have a cube rate that high in real Marvel Snap play. In as much as ladder is even real, but like it's definitely more real post Infinite. Let me put it that way. All right, y'all. Thanks so much for watching. As always, I've been KM Best. He's been Lamby Gamer Shades, and this is actually going to be Lamby's last episode for 2 weeks. But I have lined up a fantastic guest host. That's right. You're going to have to tune in next week and see who it is. We have an amazing, amazing guest host. I'm really excited for it. Lamby, take us out.
All right, so since this will be the last time you'll be seeing me on this channel and on my channel for 2 weeks, do like, comment, subscribe, and then tell us what you want to hear from us in the future as well. And I will see you in 2 weeks. KM Best will see you in the next episode. Bye-bye.